Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to AMC Mailbag. Now, for those of you who don't know what Mailbag is, every day on AMC Movie Talk, Monday through Friday, we take a little bit of a segment called Mailbag where we take 2 or 3 questions that you guys send to us. And you can send us questions anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. But the thing is, we get like 1,000 emails a week. So we decided to start a new show on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays, called AMC Mailbag. Now, as you can tell by looking around, I am not in the AMC Movie News studios, either one of them, actually. Some of you may know this already, some of you may not. I was actually, and the reason you haven't seen me on AMC Movie Talk the last couple days, the Campia family, we had kind of a sudden tragedy, which required me to come home to Canada, which is where I'm at. I'm at the Campia Ranch, actually, up in Canada. And I brought some gear along. I couldn't really make it work for AMC Movie Talk, but I thought I would do Mailbag anyway because it's a much simpler setup, and I just miss talking movies with you guys. So I wanted to do Mailbag this weekend, so I'm going to do Mailbag today and tomorrow. And that's that. So keep on sending in your questions, guys, and we will get rolling with our first question today. And our first question today comes from Alina, and Alina writes, "Hey AMC Movie Talkers, I love hearing your opinions and thoughts on film. John, several months ago you made a list of films that were your favorite of the year, saying your criteria for a film to make your list was for you to think, feel, and experience. In some episodes of AMC Movie Talk, you and other guests have said there was a difference between your favorite film of the year and the best film of the year. My question is, how does your criteria differ from best film and your favorite film of the year? Thanks." Well, Alina, it's a great question. And it's one that is very, very difficult to define because, yeah, I have said before that I think there's a difference between your favorite and what you may think is the best. For example, let's make an example with the sports world for a second, and then we'll try one with the culinary world. In the sports world, I'll probably tell you that my all-time favorite hockey player was a player by the name of Mike Bossy. He played on the New York Islanders. He was, I believe, the right winger, had the deadliest slap shot coming down the right wing, and I think he was my all-time favorite. But I know that he wasn't the best. The best guy was, probably either clearly Wayne Gretzky. An argument could be made for Mario Lemieux, and there are some others you could throw into the mix there as well. But they have statistics that can prove things. Gretzky had X number of goals, X number of assists, so you could measure greatness. You can't measure greatness in movies. One of my big sayings has always been, the most beautiful thing about movies, the most beautiful thing about film, is the pure subjectivity of it. Anybody who ever tells you that, no, this film is objectively the best movie ever, that person is an idiot. And you should never listen to anything they ever say because there's no such thing as objective measurement when it comes to film. Now, you can objectively measure the length of a film. This film is 2 hours, 5 minutes, and 18 seconds. There, you can measure that. But you can't measure how funny a film is. You can't measure how dramatic a film is. You can't measure how intense a film is. That is all subjective. And my analogy for this has always been, you can get a piece of art hanging on the wall, and you can get 10 people standing around that piece of art, and each one of them can see 10 different things because art is an individual experience. It can impact us and influence and give us a different experience depending on where we come from, our experience, what we look at, all these different types of things. So no one can ever say to you, this film is absolutely better than that film. Now, I'll sit here and tell you, oh, this film is definitely number 1, that film's number 2. But I say that with the understanding that all film is subjective, and you may not think the same way. So when we come to talking about what is the difference between your favorite and the best, well, like I said, in sports, it's a little easier because you can measure. So I can say Mike Bossy was my favorite, but then you look at objective measurements, goals, assists, records, all this kind of stuff. And clearly, Wayne Gretzky was the better. But that doesn't mean that Mike Bossy still wasn't my favorite. When film, it's a little bit different because we don't have those objective numbers to go by. So, yeah, for me, favorite really comes down to experience. Now, I said in that one thing that when I measure a film, not just for my favorite, but is how did it do with, did it make me think? Did it make me feel? Did it make me experience? I'm going to say that when measuring favorite, you just go with experience. And different people can disagree with me, and that's totally cool. I'm not saying this is the gospel truth. I'm just saying, for me, the difference between favorite and best. Best is when I look at all those three things. Did it make me think? Did it make me feel? Did it make me experience? When it comes to just purely favorite, I'll go with just experience. So like, I'll always say this, my all-time favorite movie ever is Star Wars. And I count all three of the original Star Wars films, Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi. I kind of count that as one film. I know I shouldn't, but I do. And nothing has ever given me an experience like that. Nothing. And it influenced my entire life. My entire life and love affair with movies all came from Star Wars. It is the most guiding force in any of my creative endeavors I've ever had in my life, has all been revolved around Star Wars. So clearly it's my favorite. But I've always said I think the absolute best movie ever made was Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. Even though it's not my all-time favorite, I think it's the all-time best film ever made. And I always made this argument, when you bring into consideration all the disciplines that go into making a motion picture, the screenplay, the directing, the acting, the visual effects, the costumes, the musical score, the cinematography, when you start to list off all those 20 things that go into making one motion picture, I believe, I'll make an argument that you will be hard-pressed to ever find a film that did all of them so brilliantly well. And that's why I make an argument that Lord of the Rings: Return of the King is the greatest film ever made, even though it's not my favorite. But like I said, film is subjective. There's no measurements in Lord of the Rings that you can measure to definitively and objectively say it's better than Citizen Kane or that it's better than The Godfather. There's no argument you can make for that from an objective point of view. I can simply say that as a film being subjective, I personally believe when you look at all the disciplines that go into making a film, no one film has ever brought all of them together into one cohesive package like Lord of the Rings: Return of the King did. And you're not wrong for having a different opinion. We can argue and debate, and I can say you're insane, and you can say, no, you're an idiot, and if we do it in fun, because we both understand that film is subjective and there's no one clear definitive answer. Even though we talk sometimes in language as if there's clear definitive answers, really there's not. So yeah, that was a very long answer to your very simple question of what is the difference between my favorite and what I think is the best. What I think is the best is something that brings all the things together, think, feel, experience, as well as a lot of other elements. And my favorite is simply governed by what gave me the best experience. That's why I can say that last year, my favorite film of the year was Avengers. No other film that year gave me that kind of an experience. But I thought the best film of the year was Les Mis, is actually what I thought was the best film of the year. And that's why I think they are two different things. So I hope that wasn't too awfully confusing of an answer. I know sometimes I can communicate very confusingly. So, okay, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Jeremy. And Jeremy Hansen writes, my brother and I were discussing who we would like to see as the next Batman, and we both agreed that he should be grittier and more experienced than Bale's version. Well, I agree with you. I think so too. Both of us also thought of Daniel Craig as a good prototype for a slightly grizzled but still refined Dark Knight, at least physically. I'm surprised I haven't heard his name tossed around on your show at all. I personally think he has too much association with James Bond to be a truly viable candidate himself, though. As a matter of fact, Jeremy, we have discussed, at least once, we've discussed the possibility of Daniel Craig as Batman. And for those of you who don't know what he's talking about when he says experience more grizzled, there is word going around Hollywood that Warner Brothers wants an older, maybe around late 30s, early 40s Batman, which I think is brilliant because Batman should be way smarter, way more experienced, way more battle-weary than like a Superman. I don't want them the same age. I want a more experienced Batman so he can look at him as like some inexperienced pup. That's kind of the way I want Batman to look at Superman. And apparently that's the way they're going. So different names have been bantied around lately about who would fit that role, and Daniel Craig is certainly one of those names. He can be slick and suave, so I think he could pull off a Bruce Wayne. He's physically intimidating. He's a very, very big, put-together guy, and I believe and we see the action he does in James Bond, so I think he could pull off the action. But I agree with you, Jeremy. I think I instantly disqualify him because we all, as far as action franchises go, we just associate him with James Bond. And I think at that point it becomes very, very difficult to hold him up to the public as the next Batman, because I think all of us are just going to see him as James Bond. Now, you can put Daniel Craig in other types of films, and we have no problem with it. Put him in The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, no problem. I don't see James Bond. I just see this great actor, Daniel Craig. But I think, and I could be wrong, that you take Daniel Craig and now put him in another action franchise like a Batman, and I think a lot of people are just going to see James Bond. Hopefully I'm wrong, but that's the way I kind of see it, and I don't think WB will go in that direction because of it, so I agree with you. All right, the next question of the day comes to us from Joshua Allen, and Joshua writes, "Hey, Movie Talk, love the show. I was wondering if you think Disney would ever consider doing a Lion King prequel. They could show what happens to Scar and why he's evil. Heck, maybe Scar's the firstborn and he does something really awful that is unfit for him to be king. I don't know, I'm just speculating. Now, John, I know you tend to hate remakes, but would this movie interest you at all?" Well, first things first, Joshua, I actually don't hate remakes. I'm all for remakes. I have no problem with people doing remakes at all. My argument's always been, you make a remake, if it's great, awesome, we have a new great movie, and if it sucks, who cares, I still got the original. What I don't like is prequels. I don't like prequels in general. That doesn't mean there aren't exceptions. There are exceptions to every rule, but in general, I don't like the idea of prequels because we're just covering stuff I already know. And I know how this turns out because I've seen the first movie. So if this is a prequel to this one, I know that this guy doesn't die. No matter what type of danger he's in, I know this doesn't happen. And I know this does happen. And so all that's kind of taken away. If you're talking about Lion King, one of my all-time favorite animated films, maybe my number one all-time animated film, I'm not sure. But when you talk about the Lion King, I don't want to see how does Scar become evil. All I need to know is Scar is devious and evil. I don't need every single mystery revealed to me or every single question answered. I don't need to know, what type of relationship Mufasa and Scar had growing up. I don't need to know any of that because guess what? If Scar gets let's say you do a Lion King prequel, and Scar gets into this big moral dilemma. Do I go this way or this way? Well, I know how Scar turns out. So I know that takes away any dramatic tension for me because I know he takes the bad path. And I know Mufasa takes the good path. I don't need to know maybe they're twins. Maybe Scar and Mufasa were born at the same time. And their father, the king, has to make a decision. Which one will take over as king? Well, guess what? No dramatic tension because I know who ends up as king. I know Mufasa ends up as king. So for that reason, a couple of others, I'm not interested in a Lion King prequel. I don't need to know those mysteries. I don't need every single question answered. And the movie's going to lose a lot of dramatic tension for me because I know Mufasa ends up king, Scar doesn't. Mufasa ends up big and noble and has a child. Scar doesn't have a kid that we know of. But in the sequel, in the straight-to-home video, he does. But anyway, we know he turns out bad. So, all that dramatic tension is done. So for me personally, and I can understand why you'd be excited for it, but for me personally, it's not something that would work. All right. The next question comes to us. No, not that one. This one. The next question comes to us from Omar L. Masri. Sorry, Omar, if I'm mispronouncing your name. Hey, guys. You are great. My question is, with Pacific Rim not doing well at the box office, do you think that we could get a sequel if Pacific Rim is nominated and possibly win Best Digital Effects at the Oscars? Hey, Omar, it's a very fair question because a lot of times some movies that maybe don't do great at the box office get some Oscar buzz and then get a bump. Like sometimes, I know it's happened many times in the past that a movie comes out in July or earlier and then gets some Oscar buzz and they'll do a re-release of it. Because now it's getting all this attention because of the Oscars and stuff like that, and then it makes more money because of the Oscars and that. So, raising the question, hey, could we see, despite the financial failure of Pacific Rim, could we see a sequel? Could a sequel build momentum if it wins the Best Visual Effects Oscars at the Oscar? You never know. My gut instinct is no, because the Best Visual Effects Oscar is really not one that gives a movie a bump. Now, if Pacific Rim were to get nominated, say, for Best Picture of the Year, which it won't, obviously it won't, but if let's say, for argument's sake, that Pacific Rim gets nominated for Best Picture overall, that would give it some Oscar buzz and would give it an Oscar bump, and it could get a re-release, and then I think people would seriously look at doing a remake despite the financial failure of the first. But for a visual effects Oscar, a technical award, nah. No, it won't make any difference. It's not like there's going to be renewed interest. Wait a minute, that movie won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects. It's not going to renew interest in people to rush out and see it. Whereas if it was nominated for Best Picture, or if Charlie Hunnam were, I shouldn't laugh, if Charlie Hunnam were nominated for Best Actor, maybe that would get some Oscar attention. But for something like a technical award like Best Visual Effects, sadly, I don't see that happening. All right, next email comes to us from Favik Gonzalez, who writes, why not do the sequel of Superbad 2, or maybe a spin-off of Superbad about McLovin, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse? It would be awesome. Well, Favik, thanks for the question. You're not the first guy to write me that question and say, hey, why not a Superbad 2? Why not a Superbad 2? I've got a couple theories about why there's no Superbad 2. I think it starts, though, with the novelty's done. I think, and novelty, by the way, a lot of people hear the word novelty and they think that's a dirty word. It's not. Novelty can be powerful and can be very good when used correctly. And I think there's a novelty factor to Superbad that was perfectly used, and it made the film successful. About these two guys, Jonah Hill, Michael Cera. But I think by the end of that movie, by the end of Superbad, I was like, okay, I'm over the shtick here now. I'm over the novelty now. And it was perfect. It ended just right. If that movie was 15 minutes longer, I probably would have started to get bored with the film, but it was the perfect length. It played out its novelty perfectly, and it left me really enjoying the film. And it ended at just the right time, and I've watched it several times because I really like it. But I think going back to these guys again, these aren't characters that I want to revisit again and again and again. I like them in the dose that I got them in. But the other thing is this. Jonah Hill is a very different man now. Jonah Hill is not that. And I don't think we can ever go back to seeing him as that kid now. He's an Oscar-nominated actor now. He's a man now. And the thing is, I don't want to see Michael Cera, and I think a lot of people agree with me, I don't want to see Michael Cera in that same role again, because Michael Cera plays the guy that he was in Superbad in almost everything he's in. He's that same guy, which kind of made his appearance in This Is the End so hilarious. I loved him in This Is the End because it juxtaposed what that general impression is that we usually see of him. And so I don't want to see Michael Cera going back to the again. As far as a McLovin spinoff, absolutely McLovin is like 50% of why that movie works so well. He's great. That character is awesome. Christopher Mintz-Plasse was wonderful in that film. But here's the thing. The McLovin character was brilliant because he was used right. And how was he used? He was used as a garnish, if you will. He was used as seasoning. He was used as a secondary source that played off the main story so brilliantly and so perfectly that it worked great. But like seasoning, like garnish, like stuff like that, you get a steak, and a steak becomes all the more perfect if you put the right amount of seasoning on it. The difference between a bland steak and an epic steak is the seasoning. How do you season it perfectly with the right amount of salt, pepper, and different types of seasonings? If you do it right. But that doesn't mean, hey, let's just take a plate of seasoning and eat the seasoning. You're going to puke. And I think the McLovin character, played by Christopher Mintz-Plasse, was used perfectly, brilliantly, designed just right, balanced and proportioned perfectly. But I don't think that's a character that could carry a film. Personally, I think he is brilliant and could be used again, maybe in a different type of spin-off movie, in that same type of role, but I don't see him as a leading character. Not that Christopher Mintz-Plasse couldn't carry a movie. The actor could, but the character, I believe, is a garnish character that makes everything else around it better, and that's how he should be used. So that's just my thoughts on that. Anyway, next question comes to us from Richard. And Richard Karl writes, someone asked, what if Batman and Bruce Wayne was played by two different people? You all thought it was a crazy suggestion, but the more I thought about it, I realized it wasn't a bad idea because Michael Keaton / George Clooney had stunt doubles to do their fight scenes as Batman. Only when the camera was on them, was on their face, or was when we had the illusion that it was them being Batman. Ben Affleck did the same thing as Daredevil, and I'm sure Tobey Maguire didn't do most of his own stunts as Spiderman. Many people did agree that Christian Bale trying to do his own fight scenes looked weak as Batman, with close-ups and shaky cam. So why can they use a stuntman and stunt double? Why can't they use a stuntman and a stunt double for the new Batman to make the movie look more real? For those of you who don't know, there was a question asked about a week or two ago. Somebody said, hey, why not get one actor to play Bruce Wayne and another actor to play Batman? Now, what you're suggesting, Richard, is obviously very common, but there's a huge difference here. The previous guy asking the question said, hey, let's have one actor to play Bruce Wayne. But Batman isn't just about fight scenes. Batman, a lot of acting is done in the Batman suit, dialogue, interchanges, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying have one entirely different actor in the cape and cowl playing all their scenes, not just the action, but all their scenes. Then in another, and then we have Bruce Wayne being played by a completely different actor. That doesn't work, I don't believe. Now, just getting a stuntman to do the fight scenes, like, let's say Daniel Craig, okay? Daniel Craig is Bruce Wayne and in Batman, so he's doing his acting and his lines as the same actor. If it wasn't the same actor, I think it would feel really off and feel really, really odd. But if you get Daniel Craig as Bruce Wayne and playing Batman, and then just in the fight scenes, you have a stuntman step in to do fight scenes, that's a completely different issue. But even though it's a completely different issue, and obviously all studios don't want their movie stars doing dangerous stunts, but the more you can use the actual actor in the scenes, use them as much as you can, because it gives a more of a real feel to it. Now, you talked about Tobey Maguire. Sure, a lot of the stunts wasn't even a stuntman. A lot of the stunts was a CG Spider-Man and stuff like that. And that'll happen. There's going to be times when that's needed and where that works. But your suggestion of having a stuntman, absolutely you're going to need a stuntman, but that's a different issue from saying having a different actor actually put on the cape and cowl and act as Batman in the cape and cowl. I think those are two separate issues. So yes, do use stuntmen, but no, I don't think you can have the same actor playing Bruce Wayne and playing Batman at the same time. Okay, last question today comes from Simon, and Simon Daly writes, hey guys, can't get enough of the show. While I hate to disagree with John, you should hate disagreeing with John. Anyway, I just want to know what you think of this idea. Batman has been rewritten to come out of retirement so many times. Why not do it for Christian Bale's Batman? Here we go, more Christian Bale as Batman stuff. Okay, so the rumors are that they're going for an older actor. Nolan is involved. Batman would resurface for something like Superman. It'd be worth meeting Bale's financial price. Fans would love it. Instant continuity. Add Ryan Reynolds and you've got a 5-movie build-up to rival Marvel. You'll have Catwoman, Robin / Nightwing, Commissioner Gordon. It would break the internet. There are so many benefits. I don't see why they wouldn't just pay Bale a downy sum of money. Okay, so a lot of you know, we get asked the questions about Christian Bale and Batman a lot. And I haven't addressed this issue in weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The last time I addressed this, I kind of went a little bit ballistic. So I'm going to stay calm this time. Simon, there are a couple things that I think we need to keep in mind. Now, a lot of people say, hey, just pay Christian Bale big money and he'll come back, because Christian Bale does not want to play Batman anymore. Just doesn't. He's expressed that tons of times. He said it to us directly when we were on the Dark Knight Rises red carpet. Not only did he say he's not interested in playing Batman anymore, he said he'll probably never play a superhero character again. But a lot of people say, well, just give him a bunch of money. Give him tons of money and he'll take it. Well, here's the problem with that. Christian Bale is an Oscar-winning actor, one of the top most popular actors in the business right now. Every movie production that is trying to get Christian Bale involved is offering him top dollar. He's getting top dollar offer from every movie. Every movie. So if Christian Bale is getting offered top dollar for Batman, which is a franchise he doesn't want to do anymore, or he's getting offered top dollar for, you know, some really nice artsy film that he really wants to dig his teeth into, then he's not going to choose Batman. He's just not. Now, some people say, well, then give him stupid money. Give him $100 million. Why? Here's the thing. You are kidding yourself. Now, there are a lot of people online right now who are saying, if Christian Bale's not Batman, I'm not watching the next Batman. You can say that all you want, but you and I both know the truth. And the truth is, yes, you are. And Warner Brothers knows it. That if Christian Bale is Batman or if somebody else is Batman, it don't matter. It's going to make money. It's going to make all the money in the world, either with Christian Bale or without. They could put, I don't know, they could have, if Chris Farley was alive today, they could make Chris Farley Batman, and the movie would still make $600 million worldwide. And that's with Chris Farley as Batman. And they know it. So this whole notion of, oh, it'll make $300 million more if Christian Bale is it. No, it won't. Because we're all still going to go see it, whether it's Christian Bale as Batman or not. You can deny it all you want, but it's the truth. And Warner Brothers knows it. But there's another big important thing to remember here. Two key things that always comes up in the Christian Bale and Batman issues. And that is this. Number one, Christopher Nolan absolutely never wanted anything to do with magic, the supernatural, or aliens, or anything like that. Anything really sci-fi-ish in his Batman. He didn't want any part of that. None of it. That's why you don't see Killer Croc in Nolan's Batman films. That's why you don't see, you know, a more mystical Ra's al Ghul with the Lazarus pit. You know, that's why you don't see any of that stuff, because Christopher Nolan wanted none of that for his Batman. So you're never going to get Christopher Nolan to sign off on bringing his Batman into a Superman universe that's now going to have Wonder Woman and Flash and Green Lantern. Christopher Nolan will never agree to that. But the most important thing to me in all this is understanding the way that Christopher Nolan ended his Batman franchise. The Christian Bale Batman, the character, is incapable of coming out of retirement. His body is destroyed. People always forget about that great funny scene in The Dark Knight Rises between Christian Bale and Thomas Lennon, the guy who played his doctor. And Thomas Lennon went down and said, look, you're developing brain damage from all the concussion tissue. You have no cartilage left. Your spine is this. Your kidneys are this. Blah, blah, blah. Basically, physically, he's done. That Batman, the Christian Bale Batman, cannot come out of retirement because there's nothing left to his body. He's done. He's finished. He put on the magic knee brace that let him move around for one movie. And remember, now he's also had his back broken that was magically fixed by hanging upside down. Anyway, I've got some issues with The Dark Knight Rises. Anyway, but that Batman is finished. Can't come back, won't come back. And that's really important to keep in mind. So you don't need continuity. This is a new universe. This is a new DC Warner Brothers universe being kickstarted by Superman. They don't need Christian Bale to make money. It's impossible for that character to come back because his body is done. His body is destroyed. And no amount of money would bring back Christian Bale anyway, because he can get any amount of money he wants from any other project. And now he's got all the money in the world. He's got an Oscar. He only wants to be an actor now and do these really cool films. So all that stuff put together, I wouldn't want Christian Bale back as Batman. I like Christopher Nolan's Batman in the universe that Christopher Nolan created, and I want to leave it there. I don't want to muddy it up by bringing it into a totally different type of universe. No way. People who are fans, I go this far. If you say you're actually a big fan of that Christopher Nolan Batman, of that Christian Bale Batman, then you should never want it brought into the Superman universe, because that's totally contrary to everything Christopher Nolan wanted about that Batman's universe. So if you're really a fan of it, you should never accept Christian Bale coming and joining it, because that just destroys everything that Christopher Nolan wanted for his Batman. So for all those reasons and many others, no, just throwing a big dump truck of money at Christian Bale doesn't bring Christian Bale in, because I don't think the studio wants him. I don't think Christopher Nolan wants him in there. And most importantly, Christian Bale doesn't want him there. So that's why all that kind of stuff. All right, folks, well, I've reached about a half hour, so that'll do it for me. Thank you for joining me here today. Again, my apologies for the fact that we're kind of lower production value right now. I'm sitting, like I said, I'm at the ranch. So thanks again for joining us. I'll be back again tomorrow. Make sure you email us your questions. Continue to either mail them to us at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Make sure you follow AMC Theaters on Twitter. Make sure you like us on Facebook. And if you want, email me. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. You can find me on any basically social media channel at John Campia. So thanks a lot for joining me. Until next time, my name is John Campia. Bye-bye.